are basically establishing how materialists and spiritualists, they face death completely differently. And we were looking at examples from the Shastra, Vitrasura, and so on. And we were also looking at what actually happens there at the moment of death, how death can be seen as a mysterious transformation, like caterpillar transforming into butterfly. And we were looking at some examples how Raghava became Ratnavali, and that it is obviously not so easy to actually go back home back together. And also we started with a discussion, that subtle body of mind, intelligence, false ego has to be transformed, completely spiritualized. All the material elements have to be replaced with spiritual elements. So we were discussing the mind, how by the power of the mind, if the mind is absorbed in something higher, then one can overcome the level of pain. I guess that's why Krishna always says, focus on me, that the mind is really completely and utterly focused on Krishna alone. Yes, because by the power of the mind one can transcend the bodily platform, and basically we were saying this is what death is all about. It's that test, what is most important to us, who is most important to us, and whether we can focus our mind so much that we transcend gross and subtle bodily platform. And I mean, it's very clear, even in our mundane relationships, or let's say relationships in this world, if somebody is very near and dear to us, let's say a boy and a girl, they're just getting married, I'm sure we all have that experience, that actually the mind cannot think of anybody else but that partner, when we are in love, which is of course nothing else but in lust, but nevertheless, perverted reflection. So if somebody is very near and dear to us, then actually, in an undercurrent way, we always think of this person, even while we do something else, but that contemplation, that the mind is fixed on that person, there's some deeper meditation there, it stays with us. So and I guess that's how we are meant to be able to be focused on Krishna, and the more dear Krishna becomes to us, the more natural it actually happens that we really, have that exclusive focus there, and he really becomes the most important personality in our life. One thing, just to begin with, I thought I share one little thing from my father's departure. There was one little, kind of special little thing. That was after he left, I had one Mataji with me who was helping me with cooking and everything, because it's quite intense to take care of somebody and try to accompany that person and that last phase, and at the same time keeping all the daily functions of eating, shopping and so on going. So, and after my father had left, my friend there, the Mataji, she was saying actually when a person leaves, one should put some prasadam to his picture there. One should put up a picture of that person and offer him some prasadam every day for 11 or 14 days or something. And all right, I mean, I never really took these things so seriously, and I hadn't really heard so much about it. But I thought, all right, why not? No harm. All right, let's put a picture there of my father next to our little altar, and we can offer him prasadam, no problem. So, and then a few days later, one morning, when I was just kind of in half sleeping state, just about to wake up, my father appeared to me, and he was pushing me very gently, waking me up in a gentle way, not to frighten me. And he was saying to me, you know what? I am so hungry. Okay. But it was really so real, I knew it was not a dream, you know? It was very real. So then I was sharing that with this Mataji, Chandramohini is her name. And I said, oh, you know what happened to me? Somehow my father appeared to me and he said, oh, you know, I'm so hungry. And then you know what she said? She said, oh, you know what? Yesterday I forgot to put that prasadam there on the picture. Yes. So, and of course I was a little puzzled. But then reflecting deeper on the situation, you know, I mean, I haven't really researched it and so on, I have to be honest. So, but I understood, yes, it's very natural, the soul is hovering around for a while, because I mean, let's imagine we are leaving, wouldn't we be all curious what is happening there now? With our belongings, with our house, how are things going on there, you know? So we would naturally hang around a bit, and we are still attached to the house there and all that. So as far as I understand, I heard it also from the devotees in Bangladesh, they have certain rituals there after 11th or 14th day and this and that. So yeah, it seems like the soul is hanging around for 11 or 14 days or something. And, you know, as we know, it's a subtle body of mind, intelligence, thoughts, ego. The soul is traveling on that, basically. And of course, all desires come from the mind. It's like a ghostly situation, you know. Like we were saying yesterday, if a person commits suicide, then as punishment he doesn't get a new body rewarded until he would have normally left his body. And this is quite a torturous situation because, you know, the mind, the material desires are all there because they're coming from the mind. So, you know, a person who has left their body, so they're hanging around in this almost ghostly condition, and there's desires there, hunger, you know, but because there's no gross body there, the person can't fulfill that desire. So what happens when you put a picture there, you know, the mind can accept, you know, and taste that fruit through the picture. Right? Does that make sense? Yes, you know, because the person knows, oh, that was my body, and on a mental platform he can, through the picture, he can enjoy the prasadam. Because really, hunger, thirst, it's all on the mental platform actually, you know. Sometimes we are hungry even though the body actually, the stomach is full. So it's simply a question of the mind. Even being hungry is a mental thing, you know. When we fast and when we, in a resolute way, we decide, okay, today I'm fasting, then there is no hunger, because the mind is focused on fasting, you know. So we actually don't feel hungry. But if we think, oh, 9 o'clock prasadam time, then of course there will be hunger there. So hunger, these experiences are really happening on the mental platform. So, and this is why we are putting a picture there with some prasadam, so that that person, within his mind, he can accept that prasadam through the picture of his material body. Yeah. So, interesting little thing to contemplate. And also, I have to admit, when my father left, I could feel his presence in the room, you know. I could feel how he was trying to hug me and thank me. I could feel it all, you know. Yes, yes. So if one is a little perceptive, you know, we can feel the presence of the person there in their subtle body, you know. Same like with ghosts. Ghosts, if we are a little perceptive, we can also perceive the presence of ghosts, you know. Yeah, so just as a little additional story, which makes it clear how things work, you know. And then exactly how the soul moves on and how long things take until the next body comes and so on. I haven't really researched it, and ultimately, for me at least, it's also not so super important really, you know. Whether it's 1 month or 2 months or, you know, what's the big deal really. But yeah, so that's how things work. Okay, thank you for sharing that. No, you mean today?
Oh, today Dr. Patrick departed. You can remove your dog. Dr. Patrick.
Okay. But I don't want the audio to talk about my name Ronnie. It's not
Okay, well, let us maybe distribute the materials for session number 5. Yes, at the end of lesson number 5, I added a few articles. Have you got them there? Yes, lesson number 5. You have some articles afterwards? Yes. No? Articles. Yes, there's some articles behind.
We just had the last send-off of Rajendranandan and Swami and the Ganges there.
What?
We just saw Rajendranandan on Swami's ashes in the Ganges. There was a big ceremony. Just telling you.
This is all getting filmed, you know. Okay, so the articles are separate, are they? Yeah, oh, well, you don't have to give them out now because we don't discuss them now. Actually, what you could do is you can just put them on the table, the articles, right? The session number 5, yes. So just you can put the articles on the table there, and in the little break or something, whoever would like them, they can take them. I simply came across them, you know, from old BTGs and so on, and I thought, why not add them, you know? So I'd like to now, the first part, I'd like to continue with the discussion of transforming the subtle body. So yesterday we were at length discussing what it means to transform the mind. Now very briefly, what does it mean to transform the intelligence? You know, the material intelligence, to spiritualize the material intelligence. What does it mean? Very briefly. Anybody has some idea? What does it mean? Yes?
To train the intelligence to dismiss material desire and only the things for Krishna and so to train the mind and the intelligence. So dismissing what's not useful for Krishna's consciousness.
I would say that's more the question of the mind, you know. The mind rejects and accepts. But spiritualizing intelligence, what does that mean? Using it for Krishna. Also, what's your suggestion?
To change our understanding of ourselves and our role.
Yes. Yes. Also correct. I would put it more broadly. I would say, you know, to actually spiritual intelligence means to be able to connect anything and everything with Krishna behind it. That's the difference between material intelligence and spiritual intelligence. You know, material intelligence, there is no connection with Krishna. Like some university professor, he might have a lot of material intelligence, knowing so many things, but because it is completely disconnected from Krishna, it is material. That's always the difference, material and spiritual. Materially means disconnected from Krishna, spiritual means connected with Krishna. So we might have so much material intelligence, but if we cannot see anything and everything connected with Krishna being behind it, Krishna being the source of everything, Krishna being the supreme enjoyer, controller, proprietor of everything, then our intelligence is material. Right? And spiritual intelligence means even whatever material knowledge and intelligence we might be having, we spiritualize it by seeing everything and anything in connection with Krishna. So like a very simple, illiterate village woman, you know, she might not have much material intelligence, but she might have, you know, spiritual intelligence. For her it might be very clear, yes, of course there is Krishna, and of course He is the creator of everything, and of course I am His servant, everything is meant for His pleasure, and He is the supreme controller and proprietor, and. So that is spiritual intelligence. So basically, whatever intelligence, knowledge we might be having, to spiritualize it means to transform that part of the subtle body of intelligence, to transform it and spiritualize it means to see anything and everything in connection with Krishna. Like I remember in Kurma Prabhu's book about Prabhupada in Australia, there's this nice little story where Prabhupada was flying to Australia, stopping over somewhere in the Middle East or something, or Singapore or something. And Prabhupada had a headache and he was very tired. So, and then his servant who traveled with him, he got an orange for him. So, and Prabhupada, while he was eating that orange, he was saying, just see how amazing Krishna is. He produced this amazing fruit called orange, which has such a refreshing and sweet taste, and it is perfectly vacuum packaged, sealed, and so easy to eat. Isn't Krishna wonderful? You know, and just after eating an orange, I feel so refreshed and my headache is gone. You know? So just a little example how even an orange, one can see Krishna behind it and marvel how amazing Krishna is that he created such a nice fruit, you know, perfectly vacuum sealed and packaged. You know, so, yeah, so this is a little example for spiritual intelligence, seeing everything and anything in connection with Krishna. And ultimately this is what it means to be Krishna conscious, really. You know, that not anything and everything only, but even everything that happens to us, any situation we find ourselves in, that we can see Krishna's hand behind it. We can see, yes, obviously Krishna is trying to teach me something. There's some reason why Krishna is arranging this. You know, that's what it means to be Krishna conscious. And if we're not so Krishna conscious, we can't even see how situations are connected with Krishna behind it. You know? Yeah, so much just briefly about the intelligence. But now false ego is, you know, at least for me it is more intriguing. I actually, after giving quite a few different courses on spiritual culture, I just realized spiritual culture is subduing, dissolving the false ego, whereas materialistic culture is blowing it up and feeding it. It is really so opposite. And very easily, also even within Krishna consciousness, we can quite easily completely miss the target. That we do the opposite of what we should be doing, that instead of dissolving and subduing and giving up the false ego, we can use Krishna consciousness just to feed the false ego and blow it up and increase it. So all these kind of insights impelled me to put a whole separate seminar on the false ego together, which I entitled "The False Ego, Our Constant Companion and Troublemaker." Because I realized the more often I give the false ego seminar, the more I also realize how the false ego is always in my way always impelling me to act, to say things which I actually shouldn't be saying or shouldn't be doing. But false ego being the most subtle part of the subtle body, it is so subtle that we can easily completely miss it. So, and to dissolve the false ego, not such an easy thing. It really requires so much internal work, so much observation and reflection and introspection. So I thought maybe I'll just share a few little moments of this false ego seminar, just to give a little bit more insights how this false ego is always harassing us actually, and always giving us so much trouble. It's quite amazing when we actually realize. Actually at Kartik time I was giving one little session of the false ego seminar in Vrindavan, and afterwards one Mataji was coming to me and saying, "Oh, thank you for giving this. I thought false ego is just some theoretical thing. I never even thought that I have this." You know? So sometimes I get these responses, and I mean it took me also so many years to realize how the false ego is affecting me. So very easily we can really miss it. You know? Yeah, completely. And we can do the opposite of what we should be doing. So let us quickly understand, false ego is basically the most subtle part of the subtle body. And interestingly, already in childhood, you know, already at young age, child being 1 year old, already there the false ego starts manifesting very strongly. I was once visiting one family, they had a 1-year-old daughter. She couldn't even speak yet. She could barely walk. So, and while I was talking to the parents, the girl was bringing all different toys, you know, from the kids' room there. And then the mother was saying, she's showing off, you know, just because you are here, she's trying to show off with her toys. Yeah, and I thought, wow, isn't that amazing? Already at that age, it starts, you know, that the living entity thinks, look at me, I'm so special and unique, and my toys, look at this. This showing off propensity, thinking ourselves to be the center of the universe, you know, this starts already at such young age, 1 year of age, you know. And then as the living entity grows up, you know, actually false ego becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. Because we accept so many designations. Right? Yes, I'm a boy, I'm a girl, I'm a pupil, class 1, class 2, whatever, I'm a good pupil, and then I'm becoming a student, and then I'm becoming some professional, whatever it may be, say I'm some IT expert or teacher or this and that, and then I become mother, father, husband, wife, and so we accept so many upadhis, so many temporary designations. Even when we join Krishna consciousness, it's not that this finishes, no, it continues, even in Krishna consciousness. I'm a brahmachari, I'm a grihastha, I'm a pujari, I'm a sankirtan devotee, I'm a temple president, and. You know, so basically we can imagine the whole layer of upadhis is becoming thicker and thicker, right? And they're actually all temporary roles we are playing. They're like hats we are wearing at different times. We have the, you know, the father hat or the husband hat or the pujari hat or whatever. So we have so many hats we are wearing, so many roles we might be playing. But the problem is we are identifying with them. We think this is me. And this identification basically comes because playing these roles we get some little gratification, some little sense gratification there, some subtle satisfaction, and that makes us attached to that role on the hat, right? Because we enjoy within that role, and that brings about this identification, you know. So we can often see, especially the brahmachari hat brings quite a bit of gratification along, you know. There's a certain pride there and prestige, and yes, I'm wearing saffron and I'm looking so effulgent, and so there's quite a bit of attachment there, so much so that sometimes for people very tough to give up this brahmachari hat and move to the next ashram, you know, because that hat is so dear and one doesn't want to give it up, and there's so much identification there. And also once, for example, I spoke to one devotee, you know, that devotee had some higher managerial position, and somehow, there was some struggle, some difficulties, and I was simply saying, oh well, you know, there's life beyond being a temple president or whatever. You know, I mean, there's life beyond it, but then that person was completely shattered at that thought, not to have that position, you know. The person was saying, well, but what am I going to do then? Well, who am I then? Yes. I was quite surprised, you know, how deep this identification is. It was really like, for the person, like falling into a big hole. What am I then? Who am I? You know? And I said, well, servant of Krishna, devotee, you know, there's so many nice services to be done. But that thought was unacceptable for that person. Unacceptable. No, forget it. No, not possible. You know, so that's how it can be. You know, yes. If we are not very careful, if we're watering the weeds, you know, of attachment to certain titles and positions, it's so subtle, and then we can find ourselves in such a situation where we are hanging so much onto some title and position or role, you know, and the thought of having to give it up is completely unacceptable, you know. And that person was really calling out, but what am I doing then? Who am I then? You know, yes. So this is the effect of the false ego because of some subtle satisfaction there, you know. So basically we can say, you know, these false identifications, we are actually imagining to be something which we are not. Because Jiva Swarupa, Krishna Nityadas, so that is actually our eternal position, simply servant. But we are imagining to be something else. And that has to be a very that has to be a position which is full of anxieties, you know. Very clear. If we imagine to be something which we are not, that is an anxiety-ridden situation. We will always be anxious. Will I be successful to make people believe that I'm something which I'm actually not? Oh my God, so much anxiety, you know. Trying to project, you know, who I am here, full of anxiety, full of stress, you know. So that's why often when we come to Krishna consciousness, at least I for myself, I clearly remember, oh, it was such a relief, you know. Okay, I don't have to make everybody believe that I'm something here, which I'm not. Oh, thank God, I can just be humble servant and nothing else. Oh, what a relief. So, and this is really what's happening. The more we become free from this influence of false ego, the more we dissolve the false ego, the more joyful and relieved and fearless one becomes, because all fears and anxieties really come from trying to project to be something and make ourselves believe to be something which we are not. So the whole thing is a very, strenuous and anxiety-ridden situation which the false ego is really putting us in. And basically we can say false ego is like some little entity always whispering some nonsense into our ears. You are so great, you know better, you are right, he's wrong, your vision is the best. This is going continuously. So, and that impels us to act on that, Yes, and then usually we get ourselves into trouble. Like in 1858, Krishna is saying, if you become conscious of me, you will pass over all obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. You don't have that in your materials. I'm just having the materials of the false ego seminar here. But if, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. So basically, there's two kinds of motivating forces in this world. One motivating force is, I'm servant of Krishna, let me serve him and please him and follow his instructions. That's one motivating force. So if we take that route, then we will be able to overcome all obstacles of conditioned life by Krishna's grace. He is promising. But then the other route is, if you act through false ego, meaning the motivating force is, I'm the boss, I'm mother, I'm father, you have to do as I say. If the ego is the motivating force, then we cannot hear Krishna's good advice, for that's the false ego's effect. It blocks the intelligence, blocks the ears, we can't hear, we can't understand, and Krishna's predicting you will be lost. And we can even practically look at our life, all kinds of tensions, or where we made a mess out of our life. It's usually because we acted under false ego, not hearing Krishna and his devotees' good advice, but we somehow acted on some ego pushing, even though it might be very, very subtle. And then sure enough, we get ourselves into a messy situation. And interesting, of course, the ego motivation is usually much stronger than the motivation to serve Krishna. That's why ambitious people always are good at getting things done, right? People who have some, personal ambition, drive, they're very good at getting things done, but just doing things to please Krishna and the devotee, not such a strong motivating force for us conditioned souls, Yes. So, this is all different aspects here of false ego. And basically we can say, especially married life, it's like the battlefield of false egos. I remember it from my own married life. I was married for 10 years. So much time, so much energy can be wasted just with all stupid little things. Who is right, who is wrong? Oh, just see, I told you so, and why didn't you do it like I told you? And, So much time and energy can be wasted. And this is actually one of the main purifying lessons of Grihastha Ashram, is to actually become tolerant and subdue the false ego, you know. Here Chaitanya Chandracharan Prabhu, who was initiating spiritual master in Russia and Ukraine, at the last Ukrainian festival, he was saying in one lecture, 30 years of Grihastha Ashram and you will be a pure devotee. And I mean just... No, it's everywhere. And I mean just the fact how high our divorce rate is and how few couples are, you know, sticking through it for 30 years, it just proves the fact, you know, that not so easy to become a pure devotee. You know, most people throw in the towel before, that they don't have that stamina and that tolerance and that, you know, that willingness to do that internal work, and they throw in the towel, get divorced. Oh, I'm not going to tolerate that. Who am I to tolerate? And you know, often we hear these things, I'm going to walk out, I'm getting divorced. So yes, tolerance in material life is seen as weakness, being a loser. What? You're going to tolerate that? You know, to stand up and fight for oneself and defend, that's victory. But to tolerate is being a loser. But in spiritual life, completely the opposite. Their tolerance is victory. And tolerance is directly a criteria in order to measure a person's spiritual strength and advancement. Because tolerance means false ego is subdued. And false ego being subdued means advancement, spiritual strength, not acting on the pushings on the false ego, you know. So it's really, again, 180 degrees opposite, really, you know. Anyway, yes, maybe no need to go into more details with false ego. Yes? Okay. So let us go back here now to our materials. So there was just a little excursion into the whole false ego topic. There's of course so much more to say, but we have here Bhagavatam 11:28-15. Lamentation and elation, fear, anger, greed, confusion and hankering, as well as birth and death, are experiences of the false ego and not of the pure soul. So there we have it very clearly. You know, this whole experience of death, it has no connection to the soul actually. The soul is completely untouched actually by this experience of death. And it is an experience of the false ego because we are identifying with something which we are not, with this body, and that's why the whole thing is such a fearful thing. Yes? Elation. It's the opposite of lamentation. Elation, to be very elated, you know, himmelhoch jauchzend. There you got it in German. Himmelhoch jauchzend. Und zu Tode betrübt is lamentation. Yes. Yeah, so it is just an experience of the false ego. Also here 11:26-33, interesting point. Just as food is the life of all creatures, just as I am the ultimate shelter for the distressed, and just as religion is the wealth of those who are passing away from this world, so my devotees are the only refuge of persons fearful of falling into a miserable condition of life. So I especially want to, emphasize this religion being the wealth of those who are passing away from this world. This is quite profound. It is actually the only wealth we are allowed to keep, right? Everything else is mercilessly stripped away from us. But our religion means connection with Krishna. This is really the only thing we are allowed to keep. So that, that once we understand that, makes it very clear that an intelligent person will invest into that wealth and not all these temporary things. Of course, something is necessary to maintain body and soul together, but all this big endeavor people are doing and all kinds of temporary achievements, my God, facing death, it is all gone, all insignificant, all completely unimportant. Yes, that's really what it is. So this is the amazing thing, that actually, death gives us really a glimpse into eternal reality. Because at that moment, the only thing that counts is really Krishna, the holy name. Different reality, I very clearly remember this when Bhajagovinda Prabhu was leaving his body here a few years ago in Mayapur, and his room was like a different reality, and it was during the Gopanim festival. He left his body shortly after Gopanim, so the festival was in full swing, and it really hit me when I came out of his room, all this temporary reality, people running around, doing all these things, having a good time there on the festival. It seemed like really illusory reality. And what was going on in Bhajagovinda's room, Prabhu's room, that was actual reality. Having to face death, having to prepare. The only important thing is my religion, my connection with Krishna. That's the eternal world, eternal reality, And I must admit, I felt more comfortable in that reality than all this running around and socializing. And, it seemed all so fake somehow, compared to what was going on in his room there. I usually like to present a few things, otherwise I'm getting too much interrupted, and then once I've finished presenting something, then we can open for comments or questions. So that's the fascinating thing, when facing death, or also when we can assist somebody facing death, we can experience this, how actually it is a different reality. And how we can connect in a very sweet way from soul to soul, because everything else is just becoming unimportant, doesn't count anymore, no significance. So therefore there can be a very deep sweetness there, can be experienced when we accompany devotees in that journey and relate to them. Of course, we also ourselves, we have to be a little off the bodily platform. If we are full of lamentation and this and that, then we cannot really help a person in that moment. But my experience is also that when devotees facing death, they're really hankering to speak to somebody who's got that vision. People get very uncomfortable when there's all this lamentation and I hope you're getting better and this and that, and you don't want to hear this actually. You're yearning to actually get to the bottom of things, to the essence, and to have association of somebody who can connect to the essence this is of great support then. Yes, very much so. You know, I remember with Bhaja Govinda Prabhu, there were some devotees coming. They hadn't seen him for many months, and they were just, you know, in his room. We were having kirtan every evening, and they were just breaking down in tears and shock to see his body, you know, because he was so emaciated, so skinny. So I mean, you imagine being in this situation, people walking in your room and then they're breaking down in tears there. You know, not so encouraging really, you know. Yes, but then, you know, having that vision, actually, all right, the external body has really changed, but it is still the same personality there. The same spirit soul is still there, you know. And then being able to connect with that person on that level, you know, is special challenge and special sweetness there, you know. Also here 5, 10, 12, Prabhupada gives this nice comparison. While we are in the human form, we should put an end to this nonsensical stage performance. We should come to our original constitutional position, known as Krishna consciousness. So this nonsensical stage performance, I simply find this excellent, this comparison, because that's really what every life is all about. It's like on the stage, you know, we imagine we are on a stage, so curtain goes open, and we're playing our role there. Okay, this lifetime I'm a German woman and I am so busy and I have so many things to do and I'm running, busy, doing so many things. And then, curtain is closing, finished, all gone, everything finished, you know? And then, next stage performance, curtain opening, So this time I might be a man in India, and again, oh yes, so many important things, I'm father, this, that, oh, so busy, running around, you know, and then same thing again, and then maybe next life, dog in Sweden, barking away, whoa, I have to protect this property, my master, he will feed me, and you know, and dogs also take it really seriously, their role, you know. So, and then, curtain closing. So this goes on, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Simply crazy circus, nonsensical stage performance. It's just so wonderful how Prabhupada expresses that, because that's exactly what it is, you know. And then, when we face death, depending on what consciousness we are, but we get a glimpse of this, as far as I understand it. We realize, so now everything finished, everything pulled away. You know, somebody once told me this story, how a non-devotee was just about to pass away, and all his lamenting family members were around him. He couldn't speak anymore, but he was writing one message on a piece of paper, and he was writing, "It's all an illusion." You know, that was his realization. It's all an illusion. Oh, this, you know, job and a house and this and property, bank balance, so many children, this, that, boom, it's all gone, finished, gone. You know, and then there might be some regret there. Oh my God, I've spent all this effort, so much energy, so much endeavor, you know, for nothing. It's all gone, it's all stripped away from me, you know? Yes. Ooh, so that's why intelligent person, you know, keeps life very simple, just bare minimum, whatever is necessary to keep body and soul together, and the intelligent person invests into the real wealth, connection with Krishna, because that's the only thing we're allowed to keep, nothing else. even all our glorious deeds and services. I mean, I think I shared already when I was facing this diagnosis with cancer. That was my clear realization. All my big achievements, collecting for so many projects and this and that and traveling so fast, no significance, no shelter in that. You know? Even within Krishna consciousness, all these more external things, we're only doing them because we can't just chant and hear all day, so we have to engage our body, our senses. But the lasting result will be the internal, part. How much we endeavor to connect with Krishna. Yes. Five, 11, 15. When one's mind is absorbed in the material conception, he thinks that he belongs to a particular nation, family, country, or creed. These are all called upadhis, designations, and one has to become freed from them. Savopadi vinyamuktam. As long as one is not freed, he has to continue conditioned life in material existence. Here we got it. We have to free ourselves, we have to dissolve all these upadhis. Otherwise, surely we have to do another round in the material world. The human form of life is meant for cleansing away these misconceptions. If this is not done, one has to repeat the cycle of birth and death and thus suffer all material conditions. So, this expresses it again. Not so easy, because as I was saying, one can externally keep oneself busy within so-called Krishna consciousness, but instead of dissolving the false ego, one can very easily feed it and blow it up and massage each other's egos and and we might be 30, 40, 50 years in Krishna consciousness, but there's no question about dissolving the upadhis and dissolving the false ego, and then surely enough we will have to do another round. So it doesn't go automatically. One has to actually do some internal work there. Here also a little quote just to make the same thing point from Bhagavad Gita lecture November 72. These are upadhis. Suppose you are in a black coat. So does it mean you are black coat? If I ask you, who are you? If you say, I am black coat, is that the proper answer? No. Similarly, we are in a dress, American dress or Indian dress. So if somebody asks you, who are you? I am Indian. That is wrong identification. If you say, Aham Brahmasmi, that is your real identification. That realization required. So, not so easy, not so easy. Yes. And as I was sharing yesterday, this little story there with Bhaja Govinda identifying with I am the Bhakta leader, that was kind of keeping him. So that's the point. As long as we have some of these false identifications, difficult to leave. But if we come to that identification, I'm simply servant of Krishna, much easier to say, okay Krishna, let me put my life into your hands. You decide where and how you want me to serve. Then so much easier to live, because we don't mind in which capacity we serve, as long as it is simply serving somehow. But if we think I'm the Bhakta leader or I'm the grandmother or whatever, then that will keep us here, and we will cling on to that role and that service. Alright, so maybe I'll simply see here before we go to the next little subject. Are there any comments or questions just related now to this topic of false ego? Yes?
Just one comment. Resolving the false ego is through personal training. As it says in the dying before we die, and facing our mortality. It's actually different when, depending on the love in the So my recommendation for anyone who wants to follow those people, the next time you hear someone close to them, try to keep quiet and be quiet. Because you do face your own mortality. Again, you stay in your It's such an expression that Krishna allows the person who's departed to receive. As you were mentioning the designation of adoration of Krishna, name the same. If the person who's departed that hasn't happened yet, the trained caregivers can actually assist through conversations before they leave.
Maybe I can give, I don't know if that interests you, but shall I share a couple of very practical tools how we can actually dissolve the false ego? Yes? from the false ego seminar. So basically we can say there is two tracks. One track is the chanting of the holy name, and we will come to that a little later, we will park that. That is the main and foremost way how we dissolve the false ego. But that is not enough, because as I was saying, the false ego is pushing us constantly as motivating force, as driving force. And while we have this driving force of false ego pushing us in different ways, trying to show off, trying to be right, and, that's where the Vaishnava etiquette and culture comes in. So Krishna gives us this Vaishnava etiquette and culture. It's like some crutches which we use while we are not spontaneously free from false ego and humble. We accept the Vaishnava etiquette and culture, and then those two things together, the chanting of the holy name and the Vaishnava etiquette and culture, that will lead to the goal. That will give us the desired result. Yes. So, and there is a couple of very practical, simple things. Like, we all know, to eat, sleep, mate, defend, these are the animal propensities which a devotee is meant to keep as a minimum, you know? And we often talk about eating, sleeping, mating, but we are not talking so much about the defending. And defending, of course, there's gross physical defense, but then there is the verbal defense, the subtle defense, the defense of the false ego. Right? Yes. So that's why Vaishnava etiquette says that a Vaishnava should never defend himself. He or she should defend other devotees, but not himself or herself. Because as soon as we defend, we are just defending the false ego. but, it was like this. No, it was him, not me. Actually, I did it like that, but. It's all false ego defense. You know? What happens? We're just trying to look that we are right, we are okay, we are good. You know? And that is all defending the false ego. Instead of dissolving and letting go of the false ego, we defend and protect. And we do it all the time, every day. You know? Krishna is giving us every day some opportunities to dissolve the false ego and give it up, but usually we do the opposite. We defend, we protect. But. So and that's where the etiquette comes in. The devotee should never defend himself. Only other devotees, but not himself. Even if the devotee is right, what to speak of when he's wrong? I mean, we are even defending when we are wrong. You know, we still think we are right. But even when we are right, actually, the right way to act is that we think, okay, Krishna, this time I'm right, but it doesn't matter. You know, let me simply take the opportunity to give up my ego. Just let it go by, let it pass, not react on it. And it's not easy, you know. The tongue always wants to defend and speak and have the last word, you know, answer back. This is all false ego stuff. Yes, completely. Yes. And this false ego, you know, activities, very contaminating. We have it a lot on internet, or these internet discussions, you know, where people actually don't want to hear the other person, but they just want to push their opinion through and establish they are right, you know, and it can go on and on and on. There's never an end to it, and sometimes you get sucked into it, and then somebody says something, and half the world reads it, and you feel, oh well, I have to take some stand to it, I have to answer this, I cannot just leave it like this, you know, and then we answer back, and then boom, the answer comes, and it's so contaminating. You feel so ugly and contaminated inside, and the mind is all agitated, and so this is the poisonous effect of the false ego. Yeah, false ego has such a poisonous power, it can poison anything. Any good idea can be completely spoiled and poisoned by false ego. And it's very subtle, you know, very subtle. So, never defending is one tool, and then the other one is, because false ego is so near and dear to us, we like to feed it, you know, and blow it up. We look for opportunities to be recognized, to be glorified. But again, Vaishnava etiquette is, we should avoid those situations. We should block our ears and run away, actually, because it easily feeds and blows up the ego, you know. Yes, we should avoid situations where we are glorified, recognized, and, you know, where there's a whole thing about us, where we are the center, and you know, where we're showing off. The showing off, ooh, that feeds the ego, you know. Yes. So, I mean, there's a few other things too, but if we can just concentrate on this not defending, that already is a lot of internal work. So now often the question comes, so how practically do we do it if we catch ourselves always, oh, we are defending anyway, you know? So I've come up with some very practical, systematic steps. That step number one is always hearing about it. You know, that we hear how the ego affects us. That brings awareness. We become conscious of the ego affecting us. So step number one is hearing about the topic. Then step number two is desiring to, you know, dissolve the ego. Strong desire has to be there. I want to get rid of this ego activities, ego pushings there. So desiring to get rid of this ego motivation. Then the next one is introspection. We have to look within our hearts. Why do I say this? Why am I acting like this? What is my real motive here? So, and then we catch ourselves doing the wrong thing. That's already progress. That we catch ourselves doing the wrong thing. Because 6 months earlier we didn't even notice. But now we realize, again, I couldn't shut up, I had to have the last word, I was defending, but, So we catch ourselves doing the wrong thing. That is already the first little progress, that we are catching ourselves doing the wrong thing. So, and then doing the wrong thing, there has to be lamentation, repentance, regret. Oh, Krishna, help, please, pull out this weed of ego motivation here. Some repentance, some crying out to Krishna. Because ultimately this false ego is so deep-rooted, we by our own endeavor, we actually can't uproot things. We have to invite Krishna to do it. Yes. So when we do this internal work, being introspective, catching ourselves doing the wrong thing, lamenting, crying out to Krishna, sooner or later we will catch ourselves doing the right thing. That all of a sudden there will be a situation, this time I didn't answer back. 6 months before I would have acted on it, but this time I could just let it go by. It didn't agitate me. I could shut up and, just let him be right, even if he's not wrong, doesn't matter. Yes. Yeah, so like that, gradually, we can dissolve, we dissolve this behavior patterns, these ego behavior patterns. But it's hard work, internal work. And if we agree to do this internal work, that's when we actually make progress. That's when we really get some purification. All this other external stuff, as long as nothing happens there in our ego dissolving work, it's all very nice, but it will not help us at the moment of death. But this internal work of actually letting go of these false ego behavior, that really is when we make some progress, when we actually become purified. And if we don't do this, I just recently had this realization when we had a holy name retreat in Bangladesh actually. I realized, it's not only the mind which disturbs the chanting, it's the false ego. So often when we try and chant, we have all these false ego battles and conversations with people and going on. So it's actually the false ego even much more. The false ego pushes the mind, but the root cause is the false ego. And we can attend so many holy name retreats, but if we don't parallel work on the false ego, then it's like elephant after bath throwing dirt on the back. We endeavoring to chant deeply, but then we act all on false ego, and pushings, and we can't get anywhere then. You get my point? Yes. That's why these things have to work parallel. Yes. And that's why we have Vaishnava etiquette. Vaishnava etiquette, Vaishnava culture, that's our saving grace, supporting, that transformation while it is not spontaneously there. Krishna gives us the etiquette, so we have to follow the etiquette. And then gradually, by following the etiquette, it becomes internalized, And then gradually, we can actually let go of the false ego. And as we let go of the false ego, we can also get the benefit of the chanting more, Like that, it's connected. Okay. Yeah, sorry, I'm talking a lot. It's my last chance to fill you up with something. What shall we do? Shall we have a little break, or shall we continue a little bit more, or do you want to? Well, it's not so new. It is about the importance of relationship. Huh? Better make a break. Okay? Yes? Just to air your brain a little bit. Okay, good. So let's have 10-minute break. Till 4:45. Okay. You want to go to Krishna? And she said no. And everybody was shocked. What? You don't want to go to Krishna? Why is that? And she gave a pretty significant answer. She said, actually, I don't know anything about Krishna. I have no relationship with Krishna. Yes, no relationship. So obviously, we don't want to end up like this. Of course, it can be that maybe it was just her humility or something. But no, let's understand, at the moment of death, as we have been saying, religion means religere means connection, reconnect. So what counts at the moment of death is our connection, our relationship with Krishna. And it is very clear, very easy, understandable. If there is a relationship, then we will want to leave, right? Krishna is waiting, he's been waiting for so many lifetimes, then not so difficult to say, okay Krishna, now it's time to leave, please allow me to go to you. If there's a relationship there, but if there's no relationship, naturally we are clinging onto all different temporary relationships around us, and then we will not want to leave. So it's all about relationship, and of course bhakti means there has to be a relationship, otherwise there's no meaning to bhakti. It implies a relationship. So, yes, but if there's no relationship, then we will want to stay here by hook or by crook. But if there is a relationship, then why delaying? Why delaying? Why wanting to stay here? No, then we will happily want to go, and the departure is so much easier. And of course also proportionally to how much the relationship is established, we lose the fear of death. Right? We were also talking about that in the Holy Name Retreat. So as the relationship becomes more tangibly manifest, proportionally we will lose our fear of death. Right? So our fear of death is directly an indication how little the relationship is established. That's why we are so fearful of death. Right? Makes sense? Yes, yes, yes. Very practical, We can practically see, if I'm so fearful of death, it means actually my relationship with Krishna is very fragile, very feeble, Yes. And as the relationship becomes more clear and tangibly there, present in our life, our fear of death should proportionally diminish, right? So sometimes people ask this question, so what about if just for some reason we don't get that chance to focus our mind on Krishna and prepare and all this? That's a pretty valid question. What will happen then? So I found a nice verse in purport where this is exactly explained. This is 11:7:6. Now you should completely give up all attachment to your personal friends and relatives and fix your mind on me. Here we are again, me alone. So even personal friends and relatives, we should give up that attachment, because as we were mentioning before, death is the test. Which relationship is most important to us? That's basically the essence, My personal friends and relatives or Krishna. And if my personal friends and relatives, if they're more important to us, well then good chance we have to come back and finish off that more important business there. Right? So that's why Krishna is here instructing. Now you should completely give up all attachment to your personal friends and relatives and fix your mind on me. Thus, being always conscious of me, you should observe all things with equal vision and wander throughout the earth. So in the purport it says, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments, those great souls who have surrendered unto me are always equipped with transcendental knowledge and detachment from the material world. Sometimes, being busy in their devotional service, they may appear to forget me. However, a pure devotee who has achieved the platform of love for me will always be protected by such sincere devotion. Even if such a devotee should suddenly give up his life while neglecting to fix his mind intensely on me, such a devotee's loving feelings are so powerful that they afford him all protection. But loving feelings, relationship, Even if there is a temporary moment of forgetfulness, such devotion will bring the devotee to my lotus feet, which are beyond the vision of ordinary materialistic persons. Uddhava is my pure devotee. Knowledge of me and detachment from this world have again been aroused in him because he can never give up my association. So this gives some hope, to us. And it's very clear Krishna is a person. And if a devotee actually has some loving feelings, he will not be so cruel to say, oh, well, you died in some heart attack. Well, too bad, you didn't fix your mind on me, so here we go, you have to take birth again. No, why should Krishna react like that, So even though there might be a temporary moment of forgetfulness due to external circumstances, but because a devotee's loving feelings are so powerful, hopefully, that will afford him all protection. So again, it is a question of relationship. It's not just some mechanical thing there or something. But no, it's all a question of relationship. Right? Any comments, questions about that? Yes, please.
We know we have a particular relationship with Krishna in which we reveal the powerful, wonderful peace. So, but if we're blind to that, because we're not developed spiritually enough, what is the relationship? Like, what is occupying our mind and we feel that relationship with Krishna? We all know who we are.
Yes, good question.
As we see Krishna in a deity form, and we have on a pathway, not much more.
Yes. Yes, so this is actually a very nice opening to the last section here we want to discuss. What are the main keys to actually develop the relationship? So, and of course, first of all, Shravanam, hearing about Krishna, that will stimulate the desire to have a relationship, and hearing again and again, hearing Sambandha Gyan, who am I, who is Krishna, what is this whole material world all about, that Sambandha Gyan has to be deeply established in the heart. So, and if the Sambandha Gyan is deeply established in the heart, then that reaction will be that we long for that relationship, we want that relationship, and we realize, oh my God, I've been such a rascal. I have ignored this loving relationship for so many lifetimes. Krishna's never giving up on us. He's patiently waiting, being Paramatma in the heart, waiting until we get sick and tired of material life and our attempts to enjoy. And he never gives up on us. He's really the utmost friend and well-wisher. There is no better friend and well-wisher in this world than Krishna. Any other so-called friend would very quickly give up on us if we ignore and neglect him for a while, but Krishna never gives up. So, but the main and foremost way to establish the relationship is really through the chanting. So I'm sorry that I'm not coming up with something really new here. But let us just take a little bit of time just to look a little bit more deeply how this chanting is the first and foremost way of building this relationship. So basically the holy name, as we know, should be chanted like a child crying helplessly for his mother, right? Full of desperation. But before we can get to that, actually at least there has to be a mindfulness there, that Krishna is there. So when we chant the holy name, we are meant to deeply within the heart mindfully turn towards Krishna, longing for the relationship. Krishna, I know you're there, please accept me. With that feeling in the heart, we are meant to chant. We were discussing this in the Holy Name Retreat in Nagasaki. If our chanting is devoid of this kind of turning mindfully towards Krishna, Satchidananda Swami calls it the empty medicine capsule, because it has no effect in regards to this relationship with Krishna. Only the chanting, which is done that we mindfully turn towards Krishna and call out to him, longing for the relationship. Krishna, I know you're there, I want this relationship, please accept me. Only that kind of chanting will actually reconnect us. It will establish the relationship. But if we just wander around here in Mayapur, Nish Ram Ram, on the boundary wall, looking at the shops and this and that, at the birds and the bees and the trees, that kind of chanting will not do anything for our relationship with Krishna. Nothing. And this can be quite an eye-opener for people. Yes, I've had people in the retreats, in the Holy Name retreats, almost bursting out in tears and saying, oh my God, now I realize for the last 30 years I have actually been doing something else. I have not been chanting the Holy Name. I have just been mechanically blabbering something down here, but I have not in the heart been turning towards Krishna and calling out to Krishna? I have not been doing this. Nobody told me. And then we cannot be surprised, that actually there is no relationship developing. And then we might also face death one day and realize, oh gee, I have no relationship with Krishna. Because one can very easily keep oneself busy in so-called Krishna consciousness, but one can completely forget about my relationship with Krishna. Yes, one can completely forget about it. Simply keeping oneself busy with so many, big things and ambitions and projects and my busy schedule. But hey, what about my relationship with Krishna? Am I doing anything for that? And doing something for the relationship means chanting and mindfully turning towards Krishna. That's when we actually do something for the relationship. Only that kind of chanting will reconnect us, will re-establish this lost and forgotten relationship. So it's all in the chanting. But the chanting is really a very deep science, and saying this, it's not that I have perfected it or something. No, I'm also just endeavoring and practicing. But it is such a deep thing, and that's why, this chanting is one of my main topics also, because I'm convinced we're just not making enough effort to get on deeper levels of chanting. We take things very lightly, very superficially, very externally. Like these days, in any Western city, meditation is a very popular thing. On every street corner you have some meditation yoga center, some Mayavadi thing there, And these Mayavadis, they take their meditation very seriously. When they meditate, they close the door and sit down in lotus position, closed eyes, Mayavadi music on. Don't disturb me, I'm meditating. But what are we doing? Yes, I think we shamefully have to admit that very often we don't take our meditation so as seriously as the Mayavadis do. We wander around, drive the car, on the motorbike, this, that, with a SMS here in one hand, talking, chanting. Oh my God, the list is long, all the kinds of the versions of inattentive chanting. And that kind of chanting will do zero for our relationship with Krishna. Nothing, absolutely nothing. But it is the chanting through which we connect. It is not by just looking at the deities. Why is it not by just looking at the deities? Who can tell? Why is the chanting the first and foremost way to connect and build that relationship? Why not just looking at the deities? Yes, because what do we see with our blunt material senses? We just see some wooden, marble, brass statue. That's all we see. So in order to actually see more, we have to chant. And through our chanting, if we really do it with mindfully turning towards Krishna, and also through our service attitude, Krishna will reveal himself. And only then we can see more than just the external deity form. So the chanting is the main and foremost way how to re-establish this relationship. And actually all religions are agreeing on this. In all religions we find that practice of chanting on the beads. Hallowed be thy name, geheiligt werde dein Name. In all religions we have this. The Muslims have beads, the Christians have beads, the Buddhists have beads. They all have beads. So actually all religions agreeing on this. And all religions have that thing in common, that this whole chanting on beads is lost and forgotten. Who's doing it? Which Christians are still chanting? Maybe a few old people in a monastery or something. but nobody else is doing it anymore. So, and that's why basically Mahaprabhu came to re-establish that chanting of the holy name on beads for everyone and all, because everybody was doing it before. So it is the chanting, but we have to chant with the right quality of feeling. If we just accept our chanting as dry mechanical duty, just rattling down our 16 rounds and then, oh, thank God I've made it, I've finished my rounds, and just the mind going all over the place, making so many plans, shopping lists, to-do lists, next preaching program. This kind of chanting will do zero for our relationship with Krishna. This is the whole thing, Only when we really, deep in the heart, mindfully turn towards Krishna. Krishna, I know you're there, please accept me. Please, I'm longing for the relationship, Only then something will happen there in our relationship with Krishna. And it's very logical and simple. Let's just imagine we really 2 hours every day, we chant like this. Surely something will happen in the relationship, right? Pretty obvious, But not so easy. I'm just thinking, would you like to maybe do a 1-round chanting exercise and try it? Are you up for this? I didn't bring my beads, I wasn't planning to do this. But since we have a little bit of time, I can chant on my fingers. Whoever doesn't have beads can chant on their fingers. Yeah? Just as a little exercise, we will realize that this is not so easy to do. Not so easy. Let's try 1 round, everybody in their own speed. We chant for 1 round, and we really try to, deep in the heart, mindfully turn to Krishna and call out to Him, longing for the relationship. Let us try this. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama Krishna 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 Hare Rama Krishna 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 Hare Rama Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama Krishna 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 Hare Rama Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama Krishna 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 Hare Rama Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama Krishna 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 Hare Rama Krishna 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 Hare Rama Nyanyanyandy Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Nyanyanyandy Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Nyanyanyandy Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Nyanyanyandy Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Nyanyanyandy Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Nyanyanyandy Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Nyanyanyandy Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Nyanyanyandy Krishna Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama Nyanyanyandy Krishna Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama Nyanyanyandy Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Nyanyanyandy Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Nyanyanyandy Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Nyanyanyandy Krishna Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama Nyanyanyandy Krishna Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama Nyanyanyandy Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Go permanently. So, how did you go? Was it easy? Not so easy. Huh?
You feel better, thinking more about Krishna.
Yes. But for most people, not so easy actually to really deeply in the heart turn towards Krishna, call out to Him in sincerity, longing for the relationship, because we are so used to be without this relationship, We have ignored it for so many lifetimes that it is not so easy to actually change this. We are so conditioned that things go pretty nicely also without Krishna, we think, And that's the thing. No relationship develops automatically simply by time passing. Whoever is married here knows, one actually has to do some conscious effort and endeavor to develop the relationship, to serve, to accept some sacrifice, and to please the other person. It's a whole conscious endeavor, and very easily, even within married life, one can live completely, one can pass each other, and live next to each other, and not only in married life, in the ashram the same, brahmachari ashram, brahmacharini ashram, whatever it may be. No relationship develops automatically. Step number one is always being mindful of the person's presence there, right? Otherwise there's no talk about a relationship. Like also I like to take this example of, a brahmachari having been brahmachari for 25 years and then he gets married. And very often he is so in the brahmachari mode, you know, that he just continues being a brahmachari. He's only married in name only, you know, and his wife, hey, hello, I am here, maybe you can, you know, understand that I also have some needs and desires, and you have to be a little mindful of my presence here in your life. You know, so it can take quite a while, you know, for a person to flick that switch and get in a different gear and understand. So there is now a person here in my life who also has some needs and desires, and I have to be mindful, and I'm meant to develop a relationship. So what to speak with Krishna, you know? Brahmachari is only brahmachari for 25 years, but we've been for millions of lifetimes ignoring that relationship. So it is not so easy. It's not just a question of getting initiated, putting tilak on and walking around with a bead bag. No, no, no. There has to be much deeper work has to be done. And the deeper work we do when we chant. That's when we do that work. To again and again remember, no, I'm meant to mindfully turn towards Krishna, call out to Him, long for the relationship, fill the chanting with longing for the relationship. Only that kind of chanting, in japa as well as in kirtan. Kirtan, same thing, same principle is there. You know, kirtan is not just some entertaining music or nice melodies or something, but no, it is, we are connecting with Krishna. Yeah, so that's the whole thing, you know, that, I mean, I have to admit, I myself, probably for 20 years at least of my devotional life, I've been taking anti-medicine capsules for sure, because I never even heard anything about it, nobody told me. We always put emphasis on the numbers, how many rounds are you chanting, you know, but nobody ever asks, are you taking empty capsules? You know, or full capsules, or what kind of capsules are you taking? How do you chant? Do you actually have a, you know, a prayerful feeling here in the heart, turning to Krishna, calling out to Him? Or are we just mechanically, you know, doing our duty here and finishing the 16 rounds, you know? Yeah, so it's a whole big thing, you know? Now, another little tool there in the chanting, so that develops the relationship. Chanting, longing for the relationship. Now there's a second tool. Chanting not only any relationship, but we are longing to serve. That's tool number one. Tool number two. We should be turning towards Krishna, longing to serve. That kind of chanting will dissolve all the upadhis. That kind of chanting clears away all the enjoying and controlling propensities. Longing to serve. Yes. And the nice bhajan Sri Kevalastikam, first verse, it says, the most purifying of all purifying things. The holy name alone is everything. Most purifying of all purifying things. So we can say holy name is like the harpic of the heart. We can scrub the heart like we scrub the bathroom with harpic. But we have to know how to use the harpic. If we just splash around there, it will not do the trick. It will not make the bathroom shiny and clean. No, we have to know how to use it. So if we chant longing to serve, that will free us from all the enjoying and controlling propensities. That will establish us in dasya. And again, it's very logical, it's very simple. If we spend every day 2 hours longing to serve, surely the day will come where we realize I am servant. Right? Makes sense? Yes. Isn't it? Yes, of course. It's so simple actually, but yet so mysterious and deep. So Bhaktisiddhanta also said this, that chanting without longing to serve is useless. Well, I for myself certainly have done a lot of useless chanting in my life, because the chanting for many, many years was not filled with longing to serve. So that's exactly why I like to conduct these holy name retreats, hoping that I can save devotees' time a little bit. You know, that they hear these things earlier than I heard it. Ideally, we should hear these things right from day number 1. That we don't even develop all these bad chanting habits. Because that's interesting to understand. We all come actually at Namabhas stage when we come to Krishna consciousness. We very sincerely try our best. I remember when I tried the chanting the first time, my God, you know, I remember even I covered myself with my blanket of the bed, and I tried it under the blanket. Okay, let's try this chanting, you know, you know, we are actually quite sincere in our efforts, so that is Namabhas. So, and then we have 2 options, either to go down to Nam Aparat, or we go up and stay in Namabhas and go up. And I think we have to admit that most of us take the dive down into Nam Aparat, and we develop all kinds of bad chanting habits. Chanting, doing this and that and the other thing, and. Let me first finish a few points and then we open for questions. Yeah, so that's the whole issue. You know, only when we chant longing to serve, that will establish us in dasya. So now you were hinting as this topic, well, how will we actually find out what relationship we will have with Krishna, right? I mean, I'm sure we all have maybe pondered about this at some stage. How will it actually happen? And sometimes people even get a little impatient and they think they have to do anything extra there, you know, and prematurely jump up there or something. So now, the point is, we know the main and foremost vasas are dasya, sakya, vatsalya, madhurya. So all these vasas have dasya as foundation, right? Like sakya, friendship, has the element of dasya in it, plus sakya. Then vatsalya, parental affection, is dasya, plus sakya, plus vatsalya. Right? Parental is also a servant relationship, it is also friendship, and it is plus parental. Madhurya, conjugal, is dasya, plus sakya, plus vatsalya, plus madhurya. So all the rasas have dasya as foundation. So Krishna will reveal when we are firmly established in dasya, and only then. He will not reveal anything more until we are firmly established in dasya only. Meaning that all the upadis, all the tendencies to enjoy or control, they're all washed away and we identify with servant. Then Krishna will reveal, but he will not do that before. So all we have to do is chant longing to serve. That's our main and foremost business, nothing else. We don't have to worry about anything else. And we just did the exercise, we saw it's not so easy to even mindfully turn to Krishna. I mean, if we had more time, we could do another exercise, longing to serve. And we realized, wow, not so easy, even sitting here in the seminar talking about preparing for that. What to speak of wandering around or sitting on the plane and this and that. My God, you know. So it just shows how feeble our relationship is at this moment with Krishna, how difficult it is to actually turn to Him and long to serve. And that has to be our main and foremost business. That reestablishes the relationship. Sometimes Prabhupada was asked, so can we try and remember Radha and Krishna and pastimes while we chant? So what's the answer? Should we? Should we? Huh? No, we shouldn't. We shouldn't artificially try and remember. We should simply wait until Krishna reveals them naturally. And it's very clear. If we imagine a devotee who is not yet firmly established in dasya, who has quite some propensities to enjoy, even subtle, when he sees Radha and Krishna, what will his mind say? What will his mind say? Yes, oh, Radha and Krishna, they have such a nice time there. I also want to be there and have a nice time with them. Right? And then we become sahajiyas. So, but if somebody is firmly established in dasya and he sees Radha and Krishna, what will his mind say? Yes, oh Radharani, she is the most expert. She's most expert in serving and pleasing. She's willing to sacrifice anything to please Krishna. I wish I could assist her. I could learn from her all the secrets how to serve. You know, completely different thing there. You know, so that's why we first have to be, you know, clearing off all these enjoying, controlling propensities by chanting, longing to serve. Only that kind of chanting will free us from all these upadhis. But if we just chant, wandering around, making plans, oh, I've got 5,969 friends on Facebook, and wow, I will be so prominent here, and this and that, you know, that will water the weeds, you know. So the chanting is such a deep secret and science. Depending on what kind of feeling in the heart we're chanting with, accordingly we get the result. Yeah, so to kind of gradually close the circle here, you know, the chanting is the main and foremost way to connect, to re-establish this relationship with Krishna. And that's what we are allowed to keep at the moment of death. It's all about relationship. So basically, the main and foremost preparation for death is to get more and more serious and deeply absorbed in the chanting. So, ultimate goal of the Vanaprastha Ashram, now we're closing the circle here, is to deepen our hearing and chanting, which is the foremost way to prepare for death. Yes. And very clear also, you know, these other tools, these three principles of simplifying our life and keeping externals more and more simple, getting rid of things, you know, being more simply dressed, eating more simple. They're actually all meant to help us to deepen our chanting. You know, that our life is less complicated, not all these different busy business things and the kids to school and homework and exams and meeting at the school and, you know, which is there during Grihastha life. So then Vanaprastha life, all these things, are finished, and life is very simple. And that gives us a chance to deepen our chanting. That's the main and foremost way to prepare, actually. Yes. Because that's how we build the relationship. It's through the holy name. And the more we invest now, right here and now, in building this relationship by sincere and deep chanting, this will be of eternal benefit. We can already start while we are 25 or whatever. No need to wait until we are 50 or something. But then in the last phase of life, we especially have to shape up, and invest in that eternal wealth there. Okay, so now we can see if there's any questions. You wanted to say something? Yes, longing to serve. Yes.
And also, you said, I don't know if everybody knows, that I heard from my teacher that especially in a very places like Vrindavan and Mayapur, if we chant and we have some material desires and we are thinking about something during the chanting, it will more quickly appear. We have to be very careful, especially in reflective what is our meditation. Because then many people just say, oh, it's very good for Krishna, it is Krishna, and everything is Krishna. But
it can also be Maya.
Yes.
Very often it's Maya's arrangement and not Krishna's arrangement. Very true. Yeah, well, the Dharma has that power that any service we do is magnified, but offenses can also be stronger, giving stronger reactions, Although we say Mayapur is more merciful than Vrindavan. But yes, ultimately we should always be careful what we think when we chant and desire. Not only in the Dham, Yes. Are there any other comments or questions? Or yes?
Curiosity. You said something that I heard for the first time.
What?
When you mentioned about people that commit suicide, I have somebody always inspired man, and my second brother was also a devotee, and he, had difficulties with family, so he committed suicide.
Yeah.
So you said that the person will have to stay as long as he was meant to live.
Yes.
In his own body. It makes sense to me. I never heard so much.
Really? No, that's... I'm sure others have also heard this, right? Huh? Yes. And it's pretty, obvious, because we are not valuing that gift which Krishna has given us of having a body to use it in Krishna's service for our advancement as a tool to get out of here. So if we kill that, then you don't get so easily another body. Yeah, that's what the ghosts are,
No, I had heard that, but the fact that the person would have to live in a subtle body as long as he was meant to live.
Yes. Yeah, depending on how long he was meant to live, we don't know, Yes. Yeah, it's like that. And as far as I know, also people who die in an intoxicated state or something, they also hover around as a ghost. That's why in pipes and, you know, dark, unclean places, often that's where the ghosts are hanging around, you know. Anything else? Yes, yes. Hmm? The signals. Well, I mean, let's put it that way. As long as we have to maintain children, obviously we can maybe meditate or something, but we can't. The Vanaprastha Ashram cannot start until the children are grown up. Well, they're married, they're in their jobs or something. Yes, because Vanaprastha Ashram also, involves that really our worldly duties are going down. So as long as we have to go to work, you know, we can't really call ourselves a Vanaprastha, you know? Because we are, you know, every day going to work, earning money, having income, you know, paying bills. This is not really Vanaprastha. It's the retired phase of life, you know. So, I mean, ideally, again, we might be, you know, even in that regards, we might be far away from Krishna's system there, you know, because some people, they have to work until they're 65 or something and get a pension or whatever, you know. They can't even, you know, because the whole culture is not like that, that the children help maintaining the parents, although in Ukraine that is still there, you know, a little bit, something.
Like that all over the world.
Yes. Anyway, you know, yeah, and the system is not that the grihastas are maintaining the Vanaprastha, so many people are forced to work until they're 65 or something, you know. So then maybe, oh well, you know, you can be some kind of semi-Vanaprastha there, internally Vanaprastha, externally grihasta or something, by simply trying to apply some of these principles in one's life, you know. But as far as I understand, as long as one has to go regularly to work, one cannot really classify oneself as a Vanaprastha, you know. But nevertheless, I mean, so I would say that's one of the first signals, you know. So when the kids are out of the house, and that's why usually it is recommended that, you know, one marries around 25, 28 or something, because then by the time one is 50, 55, the kids are almost grown up, you know. So that's why it is pretty important to go through the ashrams, you know, at the right phase in life, and not get married when you're 45 and then when you're 60 you still have little children and all this, you know. Then that makes it very difficult. So ideally, let's put it that way, ideally, you know, the worldly duties should really be reducing, The oldest son can take over the business, or he goes out and works and he pays the rent or whatever, and the base can still be that home of the grown-up children, and they take over. And then you can come and go, and travel, but while you have work, difficult to talk about Vanaprastha, And then of course the other thing is one really has to be, fixed up in regards to no more sex life. Because, if somebody tries to be Vanaprastha, but then he falls down with some girl somewhere in the dam or something, like we read in this one purport where Prabhupada said, one should not go to the holy place just to have a new home or have illicit connections there or something. So that also has to be there. So I'd say when these 2 points are there, then one can consider oneself more seriously as Vanaprastha. And before, no harm to meditate and plan and long for that, cultivate the longing. When will the day come when I'm more free again to really, deepen my spiritual life and maybe travel and preach more or spend more time in the Holy Dham and whatever it may be, Yeah. Okay. What else? Yes?
The other day you said something and I try to get, deeper into reading more to explore it, but now that you're talking about practicality of the system, when you mentioned that ideally what's supposed to happen, that you have to maintain Vanaprastha and I was thinking, how is that? Because I thought of the way we do it in our culture, in the traditional culture, is that we accumulate viharas and attention, and we put money away so we get retired. But in a sense, you said, there's a material mentality, because then in old age you want to enjoy. But no, I was thinking in terms of devotees also, because we don't have the system established.
Of course.
That's the way that we have to function, that we put money away, and maybe when I retire I can buy a little bit back in the dump and just go rent there or preach and like that. So I was thinking, in practicality, I guess what you're saying, what should happen is that we have to give to the other classes, and when they're ready to retire, it isn't like they have accumulated so much. At that point, they turn around and depend on the
See, we could make that little mental game and say, just imagine instead of every grihasta putting aside for himself his own old age, he could maintain other Vanaprasthas, that the amount of money is the same. Instead of maintaining your own old age, you maintain other people's old ages, old age period. So if everybody would do this, then it would work very nicely, right? So, yes, it's not that we need more money or something. It's simply instead of putting it aside for yourself, you donate. And basically you could say, like in Germany, there's this old age pension system that all people who are working, they pay they call it pension insurance, Rentenversicherung, right? Yes, so this is actually the same thing, because everybody's paying in and that gets redistributed to the old folks, So, and then when those who are now young and they pay in, when they are old, they receive that money from the next generation paying in. So in one sense, it's, you know, we can apply that concept and say, well, let's just imagine, instead of worrying about my own old age, I give in charity, and I rely on the fact that I will also be given charity, you know. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Should I quickly touch upon this Artabana insurance idea? Yes. Yes. It is quite an interesting concept. I'm myself part of it. It's going on in Germany and Switzerland. It's an alternative health insurance, and I just remembered it because the principle concept is that you help others and you hope that they will help you. You see? So the way it functions, you know, there are groups of people together, small groups, 10, 15 people, and everybody puts a certain amount of money in a common pot. I pay 60 euros per month, and from these 60 euros per month, a certain percentage goes in your own fund, a certain percentage goes in the emergency fund of the group, and then a certain percentage goes in the outside of the group emergency fund. Right? So, and Artabana has many such groups all over Germany and Switzerland, and they have meanwhile collected so much money that they never ever had a situation where they could not pay somebody's health crisis. So the way it works, you know, you pay in, everybody in your group pays in that money, and you have your own fund, and then emergency fund within the group, emergency fund for outside emergencies. So if you all of a sudden have an accident, you have some huge expense, you first use your fund. Then you ask in your group for the emergency fund, and if that's not enough, then you ask other groups around you, and if that's not enough, you ask the main, you know, there's some main Artabana fund there, it's some national one, not regional but national. Yes, and these groups, they meet regularly, they're meant to meet regularly. I mean, they kind of, I'm a mercy case there, that I don't have to take part in the meetings, but the other members, they meet regularly, and they encourage each other to lead a healthy life. They encourage each other in, you know, healthy habits, exercise, good diet. They have friendships, because the whole group carries each other, you know. So it's in everybody's interest that everybody is healthy, because you're connected, you help each other, and the principle is trust. That if somebody else has a health crisis, all right, let's give him something from our fund, or, you know, sometimes we get some emergency calls there from other groups. They ask, oh, such and such has this and this problem, can you give something from your group? And then, you know, one Mataji sends out the email, so do you agree we could give 2,000 euros to this thing? And yeah, all right, let's give him, and so on. And the idea is, okay, we help their group, and then if we have one day an emergency call here, then they will also help our group, you know. And what?
They also get a good feeling, an altruistic feeling of helping another group.
Yeah, and it's small groups, so there's not much bureaucracy involved or nothing. You know, rather paying to some health insurance, where most of it goes for all the maintenance and bureaucracy, and then there's so much cheating happening and this and that. You know, it's actually a similar principle, but you keep it in the group. you know, and every group can determine what kind of health treatments is covered, you know, childbirth, do we want to cover this, dental, eye care, do we want to cover this, and they determine what they want to cover, you know.
And do they have a will, or you suddenly were passing away, the money is due to you, it goes on to something, you have a will, everyone has a will?
There was a discussion about it, not only when you pass away, but also when you want to move out of the group and decide, like in Germany, you have to have government health insurances if you have a job. So it's not, this Artebana in Germany is not recognized. So if, as soon as you're employed, you have to have one of the regular health insurances. And sometimes, you know, people have a job then, and then they have to move out. So yeah, we you know, I think this is also personal group. It's each group can determine themselves. But we allowed them to take some of their fund with them, but some they also have to keep, you know, in the group, because otherwise if everybody takes everything, then the whole thing doesn't work, you know. But I mean, you need quite a minimum of members, you know. The whole system doesn't work if it's just a small group of devotees. I actually discussed that system with Judo Priya for Ukraine. I think in Ukraine would be fantastic, because there's so many devotees, you know. And if everybody does that, I think it would work quite nicely, you know.
I guess there's a lot of things to be argued in that system, but one that comes to mind is a more elderly person with, say, 4,000 Ukrainian devotees, but what about the one that's already 70-year-old and she wants to be into it? Isn't it favouring those ones who are getting older towards the disease and illness?
Well, that's up to the group. They can decide, do we want to accept this person in our group?
It'd be pretty rough not to accept. And you've got 3,700 devotees happening in the other one, and there's 370-year-olds.
Well, or you can make an arrangement that maybe, you know, at a certain age they have to pay a little more in or something, because there's more expenses or something, you know. Or if they've been there, you know, for 40 years and they haven't used so much, you know, then they have quite something accumulated. Like I use it only for emergencies, you know. But otherwise my little bill there, $100 here or something, I pay that myself, I don't touch that. But only as an emergency thing, if I have an accident or something.
It does sound good, because all the insurances, the common pay, get lost every year, and the premiums get lost. You pay a big amount, it's lost every year.
Yeah, well that's the point, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So like that, yeah, it is a good system, you know. So it just came to my mind, you know, with helping each other and so on, you know, so yes. But it's all based on personal relationships, you know. Yes. Okay, well maybe we conclude, and let us quickly share with your neighbor the realizations of the whole course, not just the session, but what did this whole discussion of Vanaprastha Ashram, what did it give you? What are you taking out of here? Quickly, 2 minutes, share with each other.